Ford government believes it is finally safe to slowly begin to reopen Ontario. As of Friday, you'll be able to sit on a patio with up to 4 people. That's 3 days ahead of schedule. You'll also be able to go shopping for some new clothes.
What a year. When reopening plans came along across Canada, we couldn't wait to get out of cabin fever straight into retail therapy.
Obviously, with quarantine, I've bought a lot of stuff.
And this meant big bucks for major Canadian fashion brands. But for the women making the clothes, it was a whole other story.
Infections in Bangladesh has gone up to 10,143. According to the Directorate General of Health Services, Bangladesh, this is the largest single-day increase in coronavirus infections in Bangladesh since the first case was detected on March 8th in the country.
But our hospitals wasn't ready with fighting with this COVID-19. Now it is a devastating situation.
This is Kalpona Akhter. She is a labor activist fighting against the exploitation of garment workers in Bangladesh.
They have money, they have power, they have police, they have thugs, they have everybody to teach me that what I should do.
Kalpona is strong.
Me and my 2 other colleagues has been arrested.
She's definitely smart.
We paid 1,138 lives in Rana Plaza.
She's fearless. And she's passionate.
But I never stopped, and I will not.
Kalpona advocates for the women in the garment supply chain.
The factories are facing cancellation. Many factories just went for a layoff, or many factories started to transmit. So it is like a direct impact to their job. No job means no money. No money means no food in the table.
Just like many people in Canada lost their jobs due to the economic turndown of the pandemic, internationally, women who make our clothes faced a similar story of massive job loss. With demand for new clothes plummeting and stores closing in the early days of the pandemic, clothing brands abruptly canceled orders from factories and refused to pay for orders of clothes already completed.
At least 1931 brands have either delayed, put on hold, or straight up canceled their orders since the onset of COVID-19. 170 of these buyers from Canada, and they fully or partially canceled or put their orders on hold.
As a result, supplier factories in Bangladesh and other sourcing countries, which operate on paper-thin margins, they were unable to pay workers' salaries. And in April 2020, more than 1 million workers in Bangladesh were fired or laid off.
Even when all of us were hiding and in the security of our homes and still panicking because the death rates were rising exponentially, a lot of these workers were out on the streets. They were demanding what is their due. Their factories had closed down, and they hadn't been told when they would get paid, if ever.
Entire extended families depend on a single woman's poverty wages. And here we're talking about $5 a day for the women who make her clothes versus about $18,560 a day for a Canadian fashion CEO.
Canadian CEO and a factory worker, there is a huge inequality. And this is all we knew, but this has become like very black and white in this pandemic.
Without a living wage, which is the minimum amount that all working people should be paid to escape poverty, women and their families are unable to save or cope with unexpected events like a global pandemic. They also don't have access to proper health care or social protection. Not before COVID, and definitely not now.
When journalists asked them, don't you worry about what's going to happen to you? And they said, whether I die from COVID or whether I die from starvation, what's the difference? I mean, maybe COVID won't get to me, but starvation really will.
We totally know that we all are in it together. The whole world is on it. But if we consider the consequences, that who lose what and how practical it is for whom, the brand, they will be losing their fraction of profit. The manufacturers, they will be losing their profit share, right? But how about the worker? We are not asking for them to do charity, to give a food bag. We are asking them to pay our workers' wages.
COVID-19 has revealed the cracks in our economic system by shining a light on the essential workers in the supply chain. We depend on them, and it's time for Canadian fashion brands to act like it.